Good evening, everyone, or bonsoir, madame and messieurs. Today we have Alison Snowden and David Fine, the creators of Bob and Margaret. Voici Alison Snowden et David Fine, les créateurs et fondateurs de la série de télévision Bob and Margaret. Nice to have you on board. I've done it both in English and French because this is Canada we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You're better than we are.
Yeah.
Aucun problème, no problem.
We're in the deepest part of French Canada. It's called Vancouver.
Do they have camemberts and do they have the poutine and maple syrup?
It can be found.
I just like to joke around every once in a while. I love your country so much. I haven't been in about 13, 12 years maybe. I hope to go to Montreal soon, or even Vancouver. One of my girlfriends was from there. I met when I was in New York for a UN Ambassador Summit.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm kind of getting off topic myself a little bit because I'm happy to have you on board because you're the creators of Bob and Margaret, one of my favorite animated shows of all time. I didn't realize it was an adult cartoon until a little later in my life when I saw Bob's birthday, and I was quite surprised by the nudity. I thought,
that was groundbreaking at the time, nudity in cartoons. But at the National Film Board, it wasn't so much because there had been films like Special Delivery, which also featured full frontal nudity, and Ryan Larkin's Walking. So we were, we were just carrying on the tradition in a sense.
Well, the NFB or ONF has a funny way of presenting very creative projects that can often outstand people's imaginations. I love everything that they do. They even influence one of my favorite all-time bands by their namesake, Boards of Canada, even though they're from Edinburgh, Scotland. Small world indeed. I was always wondering about B&M. Is it more or less based off your parents?
No, not really. The short film.
Okay.
The short film, Bob's Birthday, was how the idea began. And that was inspired because David and I had just had 30th birthdays and tried to make surprise birthday parties for each other that had, or ideas that had kind of gone wrong. So we thought, oh, this stress of trying to do like the best day of someone's year, their birthday, and all the arrangements and trying to keep everything secret and all that was quite stressful. And so we thought maybe that was a good idea. And then, so it's kind of loosely based on us really as a couple, and things that would happen to us that we would exaggerate or change, but they would be an inspiration for a situation often in the series.
Yeah, we were around 30 at the time, but we felt that making the character 40 was a more typical midlife crisis age. So we made him 40.
I would believe that. It gives people something to relate to, especially when you meet a certain time of your life.
Now we're much older than that, so time flies. But we're looking back and thinking 40, that's children.
Oh no, I get that. Well, I think you have your daughter, Lily Snowden Fine. She does a lot of artwork, and I believe she's done some voiceovers for Peppa Pig.
She was Peppa Pig in the first 52 episodes, yeah.
When she was 5 years old. So she was the original voice of Peppa Pig.
And now she's an illustrator and painter, and she's done a lot of children's books and illustrations for the New York Times and the New Yorker and the Globe and Mail and Soho House in London and things. So she's doing pretty well on her own too. We're proud of her.
More power to her. Even though Bob and Margaret Fish don't have children, their self-sense of dignity in the face of everything, certainly comes a long way and it influenced generations. Many of the episodes which I saw growing up were mostly the British setting ones. I didn't see the Canada ones until much later because they didn't really air it for some reason as much on telly. But the thing that intrigued me the most was how grounded and quaint it was compared to the other anime shows that were at the time, particularly because it kind of gets grouped with stuff like South Park and Family Guy, which are much more, in my opinion, adult and crass. No offense to the creators, but I think Bob and Margaret is a show that could appeal into some way like Simpsons, both for older kids and adults. You know, a slice of life sort of thing.
Reflection of real life. Which is where all our humour has come from, even in all our short films, really, is the comedy of everyday life.
Yeah, and you know, we love those shows as well that push boundaries and are more in your face, but it's just not what our thing is.
That was the thing that intrigued me the most about it, because at the time I was watching B&M, I couldn't watch South Park, I couldn't watch Drawn Together, so I was like, oh, you know, might as well see what Bob and Margaret's all about. And they had on Paramount Comedy and on FTN, which was like a channel that was eventually consolidated to Virgin TV, around 07, 06. And I remember fondly, they used to air it after Dilbert, which was the TV show, that's the Scott Adams comic. And I always would like the little jingle here and there. It was very British. I didn't know it was a partially Canadian production, which intrigued me so much because most of the cartoons I grew up, I was a fan of, were Canadian. Ed, Edd n Eddy, Angela's Anaconda, Flying Rhino Junior High. There's something in the water that makes Canadian cartoons so unique, even more so than the British ones. I don't know.
That's an interesting observation. I mean, you know, there's a strong talent base in history here, and I think a big influence from independent animation. So maybe that has some bearing on the commercial output, because kids grew up watching maybe different types of cartoons than Americans did. Who knows?
I would say so too. I mean,
I know in my personal experience, because I you know, I'm somewhat unique because I grew up as a filmmaker, not just a regular kid watching TV, although I was too. But the NFB played a big role in what inspired me. So that kind of influenced me. And then you know, I met Alison in England at film school, and
we watched lots of British comedy, live action as well.
Yeah, and probably live action British comedy had an influence too, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
The kind of quirky, character-based comedy.
I would suppose so. Like, it's got more in common with something like Keeping Up Appearances, or maybe even Only Fools and Horses, more so than Bottom or The Young Ones, which were probably kind of shows you were watching when you were.
We watched them all.
Yeah, we watched them all.
Bottom was
yeah, very good.
Very good. I forgot about Bottom.
And yeah.
I'm much younger than you fellas, but I'm older than your daughter Lily, and most of the shows I grew up on were like, as far as comedies are concerned, Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah,
Alan Partridge, Little Britain, and Brass Iron Jam, and the Chris Morris stuff. The more
we love all that stuff.
Love all that. And in fact, you know, Alan Partridge was quite a big thing when we were making Bob and Margaret, and we just wanted Steve Coogan so badly to be in Bob and Margaret, so we kind of sheepishly approached him and said, well, would you do some voices for us? And we had this meeting with him where we were really intimidated, because he was really riding a crest of a wave with Alan Partridge at that time. I mean, he still is, but in particular, it was such a big deal. And we were thrilled that he was like really amenable and friendly and happy
did
to
lots of voices.
Yeah, and he came in to the studio for, I think, a couple of sessions, and we had all these different characters in different episodes. And so we'd say, okay, we need like an insurance salesman who's like this, or a dentist that's this kind of a bit of an asshole, and he would just like tune his voice. So he would pull out a voice, and we'd say, well, maybe something a little faster or higher, or a little bit more, and it'd be like a musical instrument where he would just find the voice, and we go, that one, that's the one, that's perfect. And then he would just do it because he could do so many voices. And he was so fun to work with, to find exactly what we were thinking or wanted, or to inspire us with something we hadn't thought of. So he was great to work with and a real privilege. And we also worked with Dune McKeegan, who was in Alan Partridge a lot.
We met on a tube train and
We
the underground.
We did on the Victoria
David was
line.
very brave enough to say, excuse me, but will you be in
Our TV show. She thought we were really weird because we saw her sitting there, and it was like, God, that's
staring at
Dune
her.
McKeegan. And so as she was getting off, I said, hi, sorry to bother you. And she reacted like I was like some maniac, which is understandable. I said, but we're doing this animated TV series. Would you maybe do a voice? And she's told me the name of her agent, and that worked out too. And before, Rob Brydon was working with Steve Coogan regularly, as he does in The Trip and everything. Rob Brydon was another actor that did tons of voices in the series, and actually played Bob's brother, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. Okay, lots of different characters.
Yeah.
So we were, it was a treasure trove of talent that we were able to use. It was amazing. We wouldn't be able to do that today, but that was the time and place. And then of course Andy Hamilton voiced Bob, who was incredible. He was a writer, producer, director at the time, and we heard him being interviewed because he'd won an award on the radio. We've been searching for the voice of Bob. This is back when we were making the short film, and we were having a hard time finding someone that sounded very natural, but had a bit of a small cartoony voice, because we wanted him to sound almost like a sulky little boy, really. And Andy was being interviewed, and we both looked at each other and thought, that's the voice. We have to call up the radio station and ask him if we can speak to him and if he would be interested, because he was exactly what we were looking for.
And this was kind of pre-internet, I think, as well, because it was that long ago. And so calling the radio station and saying, can you get a message to Andy Hamilton? We want to, have him do a voice for our cartoon. And they went, sure, we'll pass it on. And that's all we knew. That was the end. And then the next day, the phone rings and we answer it. And, hi, this is Andy Hamilton. I was like, oh my God, I'm speaking to him. He just called me back.
I'm speaking to Bob.
Yeah.
And he couldn't have been the nicest, person to work with. And of course, he knew everything because he's a writer, director himself.
He created Drop the Dead Donkey and many other shows.
So it was so easy. We didn't even really have to direct him because he knew exactly what we wanted all the time. And then we were a couple, because I played Margaret, he was Bob, and that was so much fun. Our recording sessions, it just worked really well.
I'll certainly do Andy Hamilton's voice in his honor.
Margaret, can you see if we could find the telly guide? They're going to be showing Countdown. That's going to be about at 4:30. I don't know about that. Oh, Bob. Oh, what do you want to send me the telly on?
Okay. I'll be kind and say that's lovely.
The Bob's better than the Margaret name.
But when Brian George played Bob in the Canadian episodes, he said that one of the things he would do to get Bob's voice was to strangle himself, like to put his hand over his throat like that, so that it would sound more constricted. I'm not doing a very good job, but you can see how it changes the voice.
I see how that, change the voice there. Oh, Margaret, I can't even get my driver's license.
Yeah, it helps.
Ontario Transportation Authority.
Okay, you're hired.
That's about as far as I can do with him. And then Steve Coogan, well, who's definitely an influence on me. As we know about Alan Partridge, it's all right in the night. Did you listen to that Abbott's tune? Something about him always makes me laugh. And then I know hearing Alison Snowden voices, Margaret Fish, always made me laugh. Because we said from a previous conversation that it sounded slightly northern, but it's actually not. It's an East Midlands dialect. And something about that part of the country up Midlands in the north, they got an interesting way about conversation, I'd say. I mean, I'm the kind of person who would listen to a Marky Smith record by The Fall and have a real good chuckle. So that band's a bit obscure, but yeah.
A little obscure. I have no clue what you're talking about, but I'm sure someone does.
Well, it's a very much a 90s show, captures the sort of baby boomer transition in the Gen X zeitgeist of things. At least that's
Right.
my experience. Nothing can be easily replicated on that regards. As far as I'm concerned, with other projects that you have done, you've also worked on a lot of Aardman works, if I presume, with Shaun the Sheep and Timmy Time, or at least Mrs. Snowden has.
We helped develop, like Nick asked us to help develop Shaun the Sheep because, they'd made the movie that featured Shaun and then they wanted to make a series out of that character. So they wanted it to, obviously a farm setting because there's a sheep. So we will help develop that for, children's audience. And then, yeah.
And when we were developing Shaun, it went through a lot of different iterations because they kept trying to figure out the core audience for the show. They at one point it was like, we want to age it up and make it kind of adulty so that there's a lot of adult jokes in it. And then it's like they would get some feedback from broadcasters who were interested and say, no, we could really use this for preschool. So then we would change it. Anyway, in the course of doing that, we created a character in the development, his little friend, Timmy. And lo and behold, later on, Timmy gets his own series. So we were quite proud of that.
So we weren't, we had nothing to do with the Timmy series except for
creating
Timmy. No.
He's a little lamb with a lot to learn. I love what Aardman does, and contributions to the animation studio over in Bristol cannot be discounted.
No, and we went to film school with Nick Park. He was in our year, and we were close friends with him, and are to this day very close. We see him every time we visit the UK, and
he comes
here. And one of the big benefits of working at the film school when we did was being surrounded by artists like Nick and Mark Baker went to film school, and another number of very talented animation artists there. Joan Ashworth, Tony Collingwood, Barry Baker, a lot of friends that were very inspiring to be around.
You probably have also met Phil Malloy or Joanna Quinn.
We know Joanna Quinn very well, but I love Phil Malloy's work, but I don't think I've ever met him. Have we? Have you?
I don't think so.
No, love his work though.
They're more on the sort of fringe elements of British animation, quite this one its own part, sometimes political, satirical.
Yeah. Well, I think of Joanna as quite established as opposed to fringe, because she's done her highly regarded short films, and her artistry is just amazing. And she also created the toilet paper ads with those bears.
She's like Charmin.
Yeah.
Charmin. Yeah.
Charmin. Just even thinking about ads, because I know you used to do quite a few back in the day for like Smarties and the HM Revenue Customs.
Yeah, that
wondered
was
more
our
about
big
that.
campaign, Hector the Tax Inspector.
Is it true that Alec Guinness done the voice of it, or am I
Yeah,
thinking?
he did.
Oh,
Yeah. We got to direct him doing the voice, which didn't take too much work because he's so good. But there he was in the recording studio. It was a very elderly Alec Guinness, but he was tremendous, and it was the only ad he's ever done for anybody. I don't know if someone at Inland Revenue was like, his son was on their soccer team, or I don't know
We'll
what.
let you pay less tax if
Yeah.
you do this ad.
But he agreed to it, and we got the benefit of that. It was wonderful.
Well, I'm very glad Sir Guinness done it in your honour to do the voiceovers for the tax advertising. It would certainly make my friend, who's a musician, he lives in Nottingham himself, but has moved to County Antrim, Northern Ireland. He had some financial troubles with HM Revenue Customs, so I'll try to send him that clip as a sign of gesture, and he'd be like, "Thank you for lightening up my day." So good job on that. If anything, my favorite ad that you did was for Swanky's Haddock.
Oh, okay.
So quaint and almost Aardmanish in a sort of way, because Aardman did an ad that was for like the Countryside Trust, and that ad also reminded me quite a bit of it. And then you had your voiceover as one of the farm animals.
The chicken.
And I couldn't help but laugh at that. Unfortunately, I never saw it growing up, but I saw it just recently on your YouTube station, and I thought, Snowden Fine never disappoint me. I could have.
Okay, we got to quote that, right? Snowden Fine never disappoint me. Mark.
Snowden Fine never disappoints, whether it be for the UK or Canadian market, or even perhaps even American, because you've done Ricky Sprocket. The theme song, in a way, has a very good jingle, but for some reason, I think there was a Japanese cartoon that came out a few years ago that kind of ripped off the sort of verse style of Ricky Sprocket.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Panty and stocking with garter belt.
Huh.
And they sort of repeat the words of the title throughout. Was Ricky Sprocket more or less like a homage to Hollywood, or?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. We was trying to be a bit of a play on all these childhood stars, at the time, because he's, not an attractive looking little boy, and he's not really snooty and naughty. And his parents are very down to earth. It's almost like they don't even know what's going on, really. They just completely as they would be if they just lived in a little house wherever. So we kind of thought that was funny, like the two things, like incredible fame and then this normal family that he has to sort of juggle or deal with. Plus we love, we love movies and all those genres. Went to film school, we just love movies anyway. So we thought it was a great opportunity to make fun of all those things.
Yeah, and we worked with a company in Vancouver called Studio B, and we had a fantastic crew of incredibly talented people doing storyboards, directing with us, and it was a lot of fun to see them, to come up with stuff and see them realize these beautiful designs and backgrounds and stuff. That's one of the exciting things about doing a TV series, is the collaboration with other talented people that can bring so much. And also, when you write, you're not intimidated by having to do it yourself, because other people will look at what you write and say, okay, we'll take that on, and they get excited about complicated things, whereas we get terrified by it. So it gives you the freedom to just write anything and think they'll figure it out.
I suppose so. In some regards, what reminded me of Ricky Sprocket on the characters end, there was a little boy on Bob and Margaret that had sort of like a nose that looked like that.
Oh yeah.
Steve Coogan was like the father or something of the boy. I don't know if that was a sort of coincidental reference to that other show, even though
That's very astute of you to notice that link. And no, I don't think it was. Well, but you tended to do kids with those upturned noses, because Alison does the character design.
Yeah, so maybe I can't even remember that character in the series.
The kid in when they look after his brother's
Oh
two
yes,
children.
yes, that's right. And they're babysitting.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
The
one.
chef. Yeah.
I was thinking of. I won't do the button nose again, but I'm sure you've probably gotten questions about why some of your characters almost look a bit like a dog's nose.
You mean the big round nose thing, or?
Yeah.
You know, it was a thing in the 80s and 90s, cartoons with giant round noses, and we were on board with that.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're just influenced by the fashion of the times, especially in Canada, you know, because we loved Richard Condy, the Big Snit, and all the Winnipeg animators,
all the big nose guys.
Yeah, so we were just trying to, you know, be cool a little bit. Plus, they're very easy to draw, a lot of fun. We enjoyed it at the time. So
I could definitely get that there.
yeah, because they just look friendly and fun and silly.
Well, it's definitely fitting for sort of Bob Fish's personality, and especially his voice, you know, because it's a bit, you know, a bit nasally. But Margaret, I can't even get a pizza. You want to go to the video store? Oh no, I wasn't even looking at that. I remember that episode where they could go to like a Blockbuster or Choices, and you see some dodgy tapes. I was like, I don't know if they should be showing that at 6:30 before the watershed, but I had a good laugh at it.
Well, you know, it's interesting because at the beginning, we got a lot of resistance to racy stuff, because it's like, oh, you can't do that. You can't have nudity. You can't show this. And then South Park was so popular that suddenly the broadcasters came back and said, no, we want more edgy stuff. We want more, you know, nudity and anything that's kind of racy and will get attention. And this is what's popular. So they changed their tune, and we would write scripts and they would say more. So it kind of opened the floodgates where we could do anything we wanted. But of course, we tried to be respectful and tasteful all the time.
Because from what I'm getting at, Canadian broadcasting standards seem to be a little bit more strict than British ones, because as we well know, you can get away with almost anything after 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I'm sure Canadian broadcasting standards are just a little bit more liberal than the American ones, but not as relaxed as Great Britain in that regard.
Yeah, just the other day we were watching Stephen Colbert, and this is super late night, right? This is not even watershed. This is like 11:30, and he made a gesture where, you know, he did this, and on TV on his show they like blurred it out with the squares so that you couldn't see that it was, even though you knew for sure it was. And I'm thinking, really, are we that immature that we can't have that? Like, someone is going to say, I was watching Stephen Colbert at 11:30 p.m. and I was offended by his middle finger.
And those people wouldn't be watching it anyway that would be offended, would they really? Because everything he talks about or does, they would probably find offensive anyway. So
yeah, and then, you know, then we're watching Graham Norton on YouTube, and it's all fucking shit and anything they want to say, and that's on TV. And I think, oh, because that's how we all talk. So, well, some of us anyway.
Don't worry, I don't put bleeps and censors on my work unless
if you do, then you'll have to attend to that bit that I just said.
I mean, if you're doing something like Fritz the Cat or Legend of the Overfiend, I would have to draw the line a little bit.
Yeah.
I love adult animation, so I've seen stuff from something like Simpsons to your Ralph Bakshi's, which can be quite... Even Angry Kid and Big Jeff from Aardman's side can be a bit on the rough side of things.
Right.
one episode that does come into mind that was a bit on the end of things was the one where they go on holiday, and then there's a sort of, well, not to be offensive, a 1993-esque sort of hostage situation, and they shoot passengers, and there was some brief nudity toward the end. I thought that would not work well in a post 9/11 climate.
Oh, well, we wrote it before then. Yeah. And I was always a very nervous traveler on planes, always worried about terrorism or whatever. So it was sort of a cathartic, I just felt like I just wanted to write my worst nightmares, but make fun of it too, because it's what everyone worries about. Just make it extreme, but try and make it funny. So you're sort of nervous watching it. But then, yeah, 9/11 happened, and then of course it didn't really get screened because then there wasn't enough time away from the awful situation. And yeah,
I don't think we
like bad taste.
Yeah, I think making fun of international terrorism is a little too close to the bone right now. But at the time, I mean, when Alison wrote that script, it was fun because I think people make assumptions sometimes about what I will write or what she will write because she's a woman and I'm maybe the guy that writes the more in-your-face aggressive stuff. And so I took great satisfaction in I think we both did, but speaking for myself, in this really uber violent episode being the one of the ones that Alison wrote. But she was also still careful in the terrorists were of all manner of religious background, because the main terrorist was actually a nun, so there was a Muslim, there was a Hasidic Jew, it was a whole compendium of religious people on the plane.
There'd also been Tarantino Pulp Fiction, which we love that movie. So the nun was kind of like that woman that's hysterical in the diner. Right.
Oh yeah,
so
with Tim Roth's character.
Yeah, I just felt like being ridiculous,
It's true. I forgot about that. She was actually I was inspired. You were directly inspired because when she stands up in the cafe with the gun and says, "If any one of you," I won't say the word. Move, we'll blow the, all that, and so you almost wrote the exact scene with her standing up.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be, and also, it doesn't make any sense because I always do think people are influenced by video games and violence on TV, and it worries me. So for some reason, I thought I just want to do this ridiculous. That I just found it funny, and it probably didn't get aired very much because of 9/11.
But there was a B story that was a lot of fun in that episode too, which was the angst that Bob and Margaret feel about leaving their dogs at a kennel, which we went through because we have a cat and we took her to a kennel and we literally, like we had said, "Oh my God, this place smells of urine. It's horrible. Get us out of here." And Bob and Margaret have the exact same line in the episode. So we're always drawing from personal experience, but that experience of going on a holiday and dealing with leaving your pet somewhere. And then of course you were talking earlier about the film inspiration, and that was all Psycho inspired. So the B story was all based on a pastiche of Psycho.
And then talking about, people assume I write certain things, David does. David wrote the episode with all the, where they visit the friend that's just had the baby, and it's all about the breastfeeding and all of that. So someone might assume I wrote that, but he really wanted to write that one. What was it called? The Night In or something?
Yeah, The Night In.
So that's fun too. That's what was fun about writing our own scripts, actually, because when we make a short film, we obviously collaborate, write together. And then this allowed us to kind of be in charge of our own ideas, come up with our ideas, write them. We'd story edit each other quite a bit and maybe contribute here and there, but that was fun. There was room for us both to do our own thing as well as collaborate.